Hello. Hello.
Hello.
You don't want to say hello to the audience?
Hello.
A bit of an impromptu conversation about foiling. This is my 4th podcast, so welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Fiji.
Yeah, it's been good to be here.
Has unfortunately got sick
I did.
on arrival,
Yeah.
so we haven't downwinded as such.
It was frustrating as well with all the good wind we had those first few days, and I was just totally sick.
Yeah. But we got some done. Some suck foiling. What else? Towing. I guess people want to hear about maybe who you are. You are Sam Kynman Cole.
Yeah.
The Trinity.
All 3 of us.
Yeah. You started downwind suck foiling before any of us, pretty much on the peninsula.
I
And
wanted to.
And you went it alone and made your own gear. What drew you to that when it wasn't popular?
Yeah. I'd got into winging fairly early, and I enjoyed the winging for, like, I was kiting before that, kite foiling, and I wanted to wing because of the freedom of being able to launch and land yourself much easier.
Yeah.
And the ability to go off to launch in more conditions, to be able to go off in offshore conditions, and things like that. And I think the downwind idea was just a bit of an extension of that freedom of being able to more simplicity, I guess. Like foil with less gear, the endless kind of journey somewhere. And
were you already downwinding with the wing at that point?
not for as long as I never really did much downwinding with the wing. Like it was certainly practicing and seeing how long I could keep going without reconnecting with the wing's power.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say. I remember actually asking someone a question about how much easier it was to downwind without the wing, without it getting in the way, and if that helped. And they said it definitely does help, but yeah, I think if you can downwind, you can kind of go pretty indefinitely with a wing as well.
Do you remember who that was?
No.
Okay, because I remember winging a few times at Red Beach and seeing you go past. I'm pretty sure it was you, and you had a dry bag on your waist. Could have been you? Is that something?
I did have a
blue dry bag, yeah.
at the time, yeah.
So I would see you doing it. I think that was with a wing. So, okay, so you didn't do much winging downwind. How come you made your own board to start? Because I assume that's what you did.
Yeah, so when I started wing foiling, I was kite foiling before that, and I was on one of the very early lift foils. I had probably a 70 centimeter mast and a 100 centimeter mast, I think. Small front wing and large stabilizer. Pretty difficult. And when I decided I wanted to get into the wing foiling, I bought an Axis 900, I think. The one before the ART series came out, some sort.
Oh, yeah.
ISPEC 900, I believe. And then I bought a new board. So I bought a second hand. I got a Nash, and it's probably 610, I'd say, and quite wide. So those door boards.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoyed that for a long time. I felt it was really good, and I could foil that fine on the wing. But eventually I wanted something smaller, and I decided I'd make it myself. And it's two reasons: to be able to do your own design, and just the experience of trying to build something and then trying to write it. I thought would be fun, and also just to avoid buying something new, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Nash. Yeah, I remember Nash was pretty big when I started winging. It's one of the brands I would notice. Not so much now, although they bought out that downwind board. Anyway, before I get sidetracked. So, yeah, you built the teardrop board first?
No, I had I built I think it was about 5'3", 80 litre volume I went for my wing board.
Yeah.
A slight double, or actually quite a significant double concave kind of shape in the front.
Yeah.
Kind of it was a black board, so kept the carbon fibre look on the outside. Spent ages and ages on it, and I was actually really happy with the outcome for the final. For my first foil board, carbon vacuum bagged construction. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the board that stands out to me is your teardrop one. So, because that thing looks hideous, hideously hard.
Yeah.
To use. So. Yeah. Tell me, so you built it. What was your thinking? Did it work?
So I decided I wanted to try and get into downwinding, and I actually took out my 5'3" 80 litre wing board on a downwind attempt, and just fully sent it downwind, and just horrendous. And I thought it'd be easy. So this was again on a 900 axis foil on an 80 litre 5'3" board, and I remember paddling out.
And you're 70 kilos.
Yeah, and to kind of I remember, I think, I don't know if it was Dave Kalama or someone else talking about and doing the downwind foiling and using a bicycle inner tube to create a strap for the paddle.
Yeah.
So I was so confident I'd spend a while creating a strap for my paddle. And then when I started paddling out on this board and started getting into the waves, and I couldn't even balance on this board on my knees, I realised I probably wouldn't need the strap. So the teardrop board came in as I figured out this board wasn't going to work, and I wanted to get a downwind board made as fast as possible. Yeah. So I actually made it from scrap foam that I had. So that board was, I think it was 6'3", 6'3", and would have been over 100 litres. Wanted to kind of use the Kalama inspired tail for release.
And then you put one on the front as well.
I wanted a pointy nose.
Yeah.
I wanted it to, but just limited by the length of the foam that I had, and but that was to get a downwind board, but make it as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And I actually ended up gluing pieces of foam together to get the length that I did get out of that.
Yeah.
And I struggled on that for quite a while with my same foil, and thought this was really difficult until I borrowed Evan's Axis PNG, the size below the 1300.
Yeah, the 1150.
Yeah, the 1150.
Had you, okay, so I seem to remember you were on the 999 ART out there. Is that?
Yeah, so the 999 came before,
before the 1150?
Yeah. That was what I was, at some point I upgraded from whatever I'd originally bought for winging foiling to the 999.
And then, did you ever get on foil paddling? Before going to the 1150? And how long was it? How long had you been doing how many downwind runs would you have done before that 1150 pumping glide? Give or take.
I feel like it was reasonably I don't know if I thought I was going to get it going, but I still wasn't sure if it was gear or techniques. I did persist a few times, but I'd say it's probably like five.
Okay, so not too.
Under a handful of times.
In my mind, you just spent a year on your board and the 999 without success. I just built it up and made it.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably build up. I know I do have some horrendous kind of water speed tracks of me just kind of. Yeah.
Did you ever get close to getting off water? Like in hindsight? Or could you have made it work now if you went back with your current skills? Do you think?
Perhaps in the right conditions, yeah. Yeah, I think I might have got somewhat close a few times, but it was just such a high energy output that if you do get close, that it damages you for the rest of the run attempt, and you're spending so much time kind of struggling to paddle and falling off and getting back on again and stuff. But it's really exhausting.
Yeah, I think everyone can relate to that. Okay, so then you borrowed your friend's 1150. Would have had his fuse as well, I guess, red fuse. Then what happened?
Then it suddenly got much easier.
Did you have success straight away?
I feel like I pretty much did. I'm trying to remember exactly what the first run was, but I was flat water paddling it up fairly quickly. And potentially.
You carry on. Check the camera.
Yeah, and then doing downwind runs on that board. And I think I borrowed I remember doing one downwind run on the 1150. Pretty sure it was on that board. Yeah, and then I think I borrowed a Spitfire prototype. And I'm pretty sure that was that same board.
Okay. Because I remember that period, because I remember seeing you at Tyndall's. And I think you were trying to flat water paddle the 1050 HPS. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I think I even got that up. Well,
yeah.
That wasn't flat water though. That was bumps, waves.
1 kilometre fetch.
Yeah.
Okay, so you struggled with really hard gear and without any experience. Persevered. Got some gear that worked. Had some success, and then were you hooked? Like, what was the feeling, or just in your own words, like describe some of the journey?
I enjoyed the difficult parts and the learning curve and stuff, and then as soon as it starts getting easy, I get a bit lost, and I'm like, what do I do now? And so I kind of really enjoyed that period, particularly when like you're starting to make some gains and you're making progress, and particularly the early stages when your progress is quite significant. So I'd say definitely hooked on the downwinding, and
Did you consider buying the 1150, or what was your progression from there after trying your friend's one?
I did, but I thought the 1300 would be a better step up from the 1150, so that's what I ended up getting.
Okay, yeah, that's a classic choice.
Yeah.
If you hadn't have got the pump and glide foils, do you think you would have kept going? Was there any time where you thought, man, this is just too hard, like I can't do this? Or
I think I always kind of knew that I'd be able to get there if I chained something up. Because either like I just needed to get my skills better, or I'd get better equipment. I knew there was bigger equipment out there, what's kind of surprising is it took me so long to bother to try
Yeah.
bigger equipment.
Yeah.
And I think I was a bit surprised how much of a difference it made compared to the smaller foils. I think I kind of thought, oh, surely it's just put a bit more effort and you'll get the same result, but it's not quite like that.
No. Yeah, because I remember, I watched that progression happen, I think, at that point, where we were sort of mixing paths a bit at that stage, and then I seem to remember you having heaps of success at the time.
Yeah, like I guess I'm trying to, like as soon as I had that, either the 1150 or the 1300 on, then I was kind of going and I was enjoying it. I was doing lots of flat water paddling and pumping around, and it was like I enjoyed a bit of dock starting before that, and something we had to kind of flat water pump up and pump around without dock was a real game changer, and I really enjoyed that. And it just felt like something you can foil anywhere, anytime, any conditions.
Yeah. You scratch the itch. Okay. Right. You ended, because I remember me and Sam Loader going out, and at that stage I don't think I'd ever even stood on a board, and you were probably there for my first steps on a sup board, I think. We were on that PPC board, and I remember you and Sam, I think, doing it, making it work. I think there was a run down from Fisherman's to Army. So it's like Sam was a beast. He jumped on a sup board, and like his second attempt, not second session, but second attempt, he flat water paddled up for the first time. So that it was pretty, like, I put Sam Loader in a different category. He's just an incredibly gifted human.
A lot of sup experience as well.
Yeah, sure, that's true. And just such a strong human. But then you were having success as well. And I remember standing on that board in the middle of the ocean in Chop and just thinking, how are you guys doing this? Like, I felt like such a baby out there. I couldn't walk, I couldn't even imagine it working at that point. But I did see you guys doing it, so that probably gave me some inspiration. I can't remember the timeline from there. But so you ended up building the longer board that you've got, which was like 7.5 foot.
Yes.
And then
7 foot. Yeah, 7
had you gone to different foils before then, or like why? So you bought the 1300. You were having success all of a sudden. You could flat water paddle even on your little board. Why did you bother going to a big one? Was it in the hopes of using that 999 again, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it was in hopes of, the logic of being able to use the bigger board to do smaller foils.
So you already knew that was a potential. Yeah, I think you're ahead of the game. I think.
I mean, it was certainly looking at what Dave Clymer was doing, that kind of shape, and and just like I knew my teardrop board was always kind of just a quick hack together, because there's actually one other board I forgot that happened in between. That I did one. I went out on my. I'm pretty sure I went out on my wing foil board from Shakespeare Tikuri, and just had like a long paddle in a storm down to probably just a coral bow, but it felt like a long time, and it was a long time. It's a long way to go back in with no success. And then I saw someone selling an old kind of sup foiling board, and 6-7 feet. I ended up buying that, and it ended up just having the box way too far back. So kind of, I'd made a quick kind of decision. I got to change the board, and I bought that, and then I ended up that didn't really work. It was just too heavy and too flat and didn't release at all.
Yeah.
So I made the teardrop,
common for that
really
time.
quick.
I think,
Yeah, and then I just wanted to make a board that put a lot of effort into, like really dedicated downwind foil board.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all the learnings.
Okay. And then you took off basically. So did you progress into any other axis foils at that time? Can't remember.
No, I had the 1300 and I was able to go back to the ART 999
Yep.
with that downwind board and enjoyed that for a while. Whenever the conditions felt
Yeah.
good enough, I was using that.
That's impressive because I used the 1099 and that's hard.
Yeah.
Like that feels like a very small foil. So the
Yeah.
999 must have been. You must have needed some big conditions for that back then.
Reasonably big, and I felt like when I was using it, I always remembered I felt like I was having to focus quite far ahead,
Yeah.
like not down in front of me where you can focus with the 1300, but
Yeah.
you're looking a few steps forwards, but trying to maintain your speed and not get anywhere close to that stall speed. Yeah.
And looking back now, did you have the same linking skills back then, or were you pumping more than now, or like what was your skill level like?
I'm almost nervous to go back to try that 999 kind of thing. I think I'd find it quite difficult now.
Yeah.
Because you just with how the foils have moved forwards, I think I really rely on the low speed stall that the different foils have.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think I was doing quite well, but also I think my technique might make up for it now. I did go back, but I think I'd probably find it quite frustrating at the same time.
Yeah. Okay.
It was, again, in the early stages of progress, I was happy for it to be a real kind of workout.
Yeah.
It's kind of rare. Like as soon as I'm on a downwind foil now and I'm finding it to be a real workout, I'm thinking, what have I done wrong in the preparation?
Yeah. Yep, I have similar thoughts. I'm the opposite to you. I move away from the hard work and difficulties, whereas you seem to embrace the grind and thrive, whereas I break down and if I ever do something and have a hard run, I'm not going to go back to that situation again. I hate being underfoiled. I'd much rather be overfoiled than underfoiled. But in saying that, a few times on the 1300 and 30 knot wind days onshore, it was a bit of a handful, that thing. Right. Okay, so what did you move to next after the axis foils? The uni? Did you get some uni or?
Yeah, I ended up Eric came out with the Unifoil Progression 170,
Yeah.
and I tried that, and I kind of really enjoyed the roll and how easy it was to roll from one turn to the other turn.
Yeah.
With again quite easy pump and a low stall speed. I tried that and I ended up
The
buying
170?
that. Yeah, the 170. And found that to be quite a good all-round foil for a while. I could surf and downwind.
And I seem to remember that's what you were looking for, like the one foil quiver.
Yeah, it's always what I've been looking for.
Yeah. Is that purely for ease, or is that what drives that? Is it simplicity?
I really like the simplicity of being able to, and this comes back a little bit to kite foiling as well. I had the same kind of thing, but to be able to rush to the beach after work or something, and just you've got one thing in the car. You don't even need to look at the conditions. You just kind of put it all together as quickly as you can, and then go out to the beach. And I really enjoyed that. Whereas other people turn up and they go to the beach, get out their wind speed thing, and
I'm feeling personally attacked right now.
So the simplicity of having one option, as well as getting it really dialed, because you spend a lot of time on it.
I guess you'd learn a lot because you have to make it work. Okay, So you bought the 170.
Mm.
Then did you end up in getting the 140 as well?
No,
Was it?
I didn't. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that'd be a nice one to try. Yeah, it's quite good, but yeah.
Okay. So you didn't stick to the uni though. What happened?
I ended up being able to get hold of get on some of the North prototype foils, and helping by providing some feedback on those, on the downwind foils. So I've been riding them since. Like I've still got the ART 999, still got the unifoil, and I've also got a range of North foils. Yeah.
Okay. Are they released now? The North
Yeah.
downwinding foils?
Downwind range.
Yeah, because you've had those for a long time. Okay. So you've also now got code as well. So you got 4 brands worth of gear
Yeah.
from the man who wanted one foil to do it all.
Yeah. And because I have a bit of an eclectic mix, like I've got the one size of the unifoil,
Yeah.
2 sizes of the code, the S series,
Yeah.
and 4 different North downwind sizes. So I've kind of got a North size for all conditions, but I'll mix it up with the code, and every now and again maybe jump back on the unifoil. But yeah, I was finding I'd use the different brands in different situations rather than just having different sizes of the same brand.
Yeah. Okay. Is that taught you anything going between the brands? Like, can you share anything with people? Sort of. Do you recommend trying different gear, or is it just kind of like a vanity having all the different bits, or what's your thoughts?
I would always recommend trying different gear, and whenever you get the opportunity to jump on something different, I'd say take it. It just widens your perspective of what different foils can feel like.
Yeah.
I can't say I can kind of really look at the shape and predict what it will be like, but certainly you can feel that some foils do turn easier, some foils do definitely kind of pump easier, and some foils are just much quicker feeling, and sometimes it is more, they are faster, and sometimes they just feel a lot faster.
Yeah, I've experienced that.
Yeah.
To me, I kind of concluded that if they feel fast, they probably are out of control. It's probably instability causing that. I mean, it's true speed, but yeah, sometimes I feel like I've gone real fast, but when I checked my speeds, it was pretty moderate, and then I think I was just probably overfoiled, maybe. Okay, so you've got all the different foils. Tough question, if you could only keep one brand, what would you? So I'll split that into 2 parts, because if you could go back in time, which brand would you pick, knowing what you know now, and as you are now with all your experience, which would be your favourite? You don't have to say if you don't know if there's any. Complete the 5th.
I think.
Or is it just is there no brand that you prefer?
I feel a little bit like I'm in with my writing, that I'm kind of feel like I'm still waiting for more kind of foils to come out and see where that will go. I kind of really enjoy the turning of the more surfy foils that I have, which would be the unifoil and the code. And again, the code ones I have are the Surf S kind of range. But
you got the 980 and the 780.
I think it's Yeah, 780. Yeah, that's those two kind of sizes.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah, but I do find that I'm kind of using the North a lot because of the ease of being able to downwind foil them. They've got a real low stall speed, a lot of lift, and they feel quite quick. And it wasn't something I initially noticed, but then kind of going back to some of the other foils, I just felt too slow. Like I really enjoyed the unifoil feel, but then after going on some of the faster foils like the North, they felt a bit slow, and a bit hard to go back to. So kind of to answer your question, it's almost like I'm still looking for a bit of a hybrid of the kind of the turnings and the code surfy ones and the unifoil, and that kind of speed feeling of the North glide.
Okay.
So annoying.
Yeah, I wonder if you ended up with that magic foil that has the turn and the glide, if you would just get bored of it again and then want a different feeling. I wonder if there is actually a unicorn setup that sometimes I feel like I've got it. Like I've got a foil that I'm like, well, if progress stopped now, I'll be pretty happy because I can do everything I need to do. And there's already foils in existence that will outperform me. Like I'll never be able to reach the performance of the gear. Okay. What about for learning? Like, because I've always thought Axis had the best foils for learning. Like they've just got that. They've got a lot of foils in that bigger range. At least at the time when I was starting. I think now other brands have some big foils, but they're not really the brands that I know of. Like I've heard of Gong, they've got big ones, or the Indiana, the flat water stuff. Yeah. But I don't. They're not around me, so I don't even know.
I don't know if they would be good for learning downwinding or not either. I've never seen one, so.
Nah. Yeah. Okay. Because I always thought that I still suggest currently the Pump and Glide 1300 as a good learning one because it works. It's like I watched Matt learn on it. I know you learned on it. I learned on it. Sam Loader learned on it. So I felt pretty safe recommending that. I've started thinking about would I recommend the 1401 for learning downwind. I don't know. You probably don't have enough experience with that one to think about it. But. Okay. So now you're super experienced, super fit. What's next?
What is next?
You know, you've probably done, 200, 300 downwinders? I've got 150 downwind videos, so and you're in at least half of them. So, Are you looking at bigger and better things, longer runs?
Longer runs certainly appeal. Yeah. As we kind of get to the end of New Zealand winter, I want to do some more longer downwind deflates and kind of. I do like the idea of. Actually, one of the things that I've really enjoyed about progressing to be able to ride faster foils downwind is that it's just opened up the enjoyment of winging upwind again on these foils and then being able to downwind them. Winging upwind that 1300 is horrendous. Yeah. Whereas if you're on, say, like that, the code, the small code, goes upwind really smoothly.
Yeah.
I can, depending on, it's always hard, like because if you're on a small foil, you need bigger conditions, and it's always harder to wing upwind kind of quickly. But I do like the idea of kind of when I'm always looking for the wind that might build, and if I can potentially get out before the wind really comes on strong, wing upwind on a small foil and then kind of wait for it to come in and then kind of downwind it back. And I'd love to do some kind of more 60, 80, 100 kilometre kind of triangles and things around the place.
Okay. What else? Have you got any suggestions for people watching? Like, any thoughts or? This is totally unscripted, by the way, this conversation. So I'm just trying to think of stuff as we go. But
I think definitely the downwinding is worth the effort. Is difficult, but
do you think anyone can do it? Like anyone who's able-bodied?
Yeah, I think if you're kind of able-bodied and then you kind of help yourself by getting on big gear that you can kind of get up, that's going to come up easier. I know I like on my teardrop board I was putting a lot of kind of energy down into that paddle, and certainly to the point that it was kind of feeling like it was not good for my shoulders and stuff. And when I have jumped on that board again, I was like, oh my god, that is such a hard board to paddle. Yeah, with more streamlined boards and bigger foils, and yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I've started promoting a bit more width to people again. This just popped into my head. Like it's pretty popular at the moment to go super narrow. Boards are going down to like 16 wide and stuff. And
yeah.
People, what do you think there's any benefit to that for somebody beginning? In hindsight, or do you think stability?
It's hard for me to potentially relate and to know where other people are struggling. I was trying to think about if I was saying, like, as a beginner, what are the steps to downwind paddling, and I kind of like to put down to get a bit of a list, and there's a few steps that you can do simultaneously with others. I think one is just getting on the board in flat water and paddling it around, trying to get as comfortable as possible on that board, and I think that is quite a bit of time and just trying to get comfortable on the boards in flat water so you can paddle in a straight line with the paddle on one side, surf stance, and maybe even rotate to kind of parallel feet.
I've just started doing that, incorporating that just for some body maintenance.
Yeah. I know Jeremy Riggs, in some of his paddling videos, he suggested kind of going into the surf stance and trying to sink the nose and the tail. And I think that's good practice as well, and it's just about kind of having your paddle in the water and kind of stressing your balance and becoming comfortable with that board sinking a little bit.
I definitely followed all of that when I started. I studied the Jeremy Riggs videos. Like, what's he doing exactly? And I'm trying to do it.
So I think the most important one is potentially then trying to, because you're paddling and trying to get your board up to speed without activating your legs, and then the next part, as far as actually taking off, is just to activate your legs and start pumping. And I think Jeremy's video of, I can't quite remember what it is, but I was maybe suggest standing on a cardboard box or something and paddle next to you and planting your paddle forwards, and then kind of pumping yourself, so you de-weight your body and then you're trying to shuffle your cardboard box forwards to the paddle, so your paddle stays planted and you move forwards. And I think that would be something that people should be doing simultaneously with the on-water practice. What else would be the steps after?
I tell people to go on the waves, small waves, because it's the easiest way to get on foil, I think.
Because you get that feel of the energy. I think it's really important to try and figure out how fast it takes you to get that board to that wave speed, because I'll see a lot of times people paddling furiously and they're like a metre in front of the wave, and they're almost sitting in front of the wave, and they're paddling to stay in that low energy point, Whereas if you can go, okay, I can get up to, because I think the paddle up is maybe like a few strokes, flat water where you're not activating the legs just to get the ball to 70% of speed, and then when you want to start actually trying to get up on foil, it's activating the pump and doing that kind of box thing to paddle while you're de-weighted yourself, and that could be like 2 or 3 strokes if you time it with the energy of the wave, and doing that in the surf is perfect for
well, it adds the energy that you don't really have at the beginning, because it's hard to create that amount of power to get on foil and flat water. So the wave offers that and more.
Yeah.
It offers like 200% of what you need, and so if you can just tap a little bit of it. I find when the waves are quite steep here now, but I have a lot more experience, I only need 2 or 3 paddles, and it's like you say, just not even much forward speed, just enough that I'm not going to get sucked back into the wave.
Yeah.
And then I'm basically just using the paddle to tilt the board off the water to peel it off, and then I'm straight away just shooting out when the wave is steep. But yeah, so I think catching waves in the surf is good. Small surf, use a leash away from anyone else. You know, you've got a really long weapon, and then that is your flat water training, in my opinion, as well, because that's in between the waves is flat water. So if you go out past the breakers and you're in the swells, you can practice your flat water stuff, do all your drills and whatnot, and then you can take it straight into a wave and try it out. And then like I recommend that myself over spending time in pure flat water. And it's more of a realistic environment. So waves, and then the ins and outs, or outs and ins, right? You just, when it's windy on shore, you go and paddle out through the waves on your knees or on your stomach, prone. You turn around, you come back in, and try and make it work. One of the biggest things is desensitizing to coming up on foil too, right? So when you're winging, you've got a support, you've got a third lever to lean against. So you're coming up on foil, it's all actually quite easy. But when you're coming up on foil with a paddle, you've got nothing to brace on. I guess you do have the paddle.
Yeah, it's very novel. I remember that from early prone foiling experience as well. After winging, I thought I could foil fine, but to learn to prone foil was a lot of falling off as soon as you catch the wave, because you're off balance. You don't have the technique for figuring out where that balance point is and regaining the balance.
And I found the same thing toe foiling whenever I had the opportunity. Like I'd let go of the rope and all of a sudden it was up to me to balance this thing. And like if you start going one way, you're used to having something to hold to pull yourself back. But when you don't have that support system, you lean one way, if you try fight it, you're probably going to taco your foil. So okay. And then what else? Should they have a long narrow board, or should they have a short stumpy teardrop board? Like what should they be? And volumes. A lot of people ask about volume. Like, isn't that corky, like a big board? So you've probably got interesting thoughts there, because you use a 95 litre 610, which is tiny.
Yeah. When I first saw that 610 board, I was using my home built 7'6", which is about 120 litres, and when I built that, I'd recessed the deck a little bit, so I had a raised nose, and I'd gone kind of like a kayak kind of bow shape. So I wanted a real wave piercing, efficient bow. I wanted to maximise water length, so I had a flat bow, flat stern, and I had a raised stern as well, because I wanted more stern volume. And when I paddle that board now, it does feel a bit too corky, like 120 litres. I think it's got too much volume, and I find that I can't do my leg activation of the pumping when I'm trying to get going. So I feel like I have to just much more rely on board speed and foil lift and kind of lift off
Do you
the
think
end of a wave.
that's the volume, or do you think that's because it's the flat bottom and now you're used to a rounded bottom?
Both, I would say. Yeah, I think the flat bottom means that I can't sink it as easily, combined with the volume. If I think if it was a more rounded bottom, I'd be able to rock it more.
Because my latest thoughts have been, because I get quite a few questions online about volume and do I think this would be too corky, and I think corky is more because of design rather than actual volume, because I still don't know, I'm just completely brainstorming, but I always thought that extra volume sits above the surface anyway. So if you have a 200 litre board, well, you're only sinking it as much as you weigh anyway. As you push it down, unless you're completely sinking a board, it's the same amount of volume actually submersing. So I think corky is just something more to do with like how it reacts as it comes up rather than pure volume.
I mean, it certainly seems logical if the weight above the volume above the surface level.
Because unless you're swamping your board, it's
Yeah.
the same amount going down. If it's like, because if you just have a cylinder of volume above your board, that's not going to do anything.
I mean, I do sink them.
You do, yeah, your board. So-
I would say so. I thought that I wouldn't suggest learning on a board that's kind of swamping under the water and stuff. I think the trade-off of the board that has a bit more volume is a good trade-off for learning, definitely. I think I enjoy the small board and the low volume more for the riding.
Yeah.
But in terms of wider, I still think it is going to be a trade-off with kind of taking off, like a little bit extra board drag and things like that. I think it does make sense again for people that are learning. Just like, okay, you got a wider board, you might need a bit more foil to get out of the water, so just use a bigger foil.
Which you'll be on anyway, I think, learning. You'll be on the biggest foil.
Yeah.
That's why I think you don't need a long, narrow board when you're learning, because you're on a big foil, you don't need that that extra. I mean, I think it helps, don't get me wrong. If you can make it work, it helps. But if you're struggling for balance, and that when you really should be trying to go, you can't go because you're wobbling, that's a big issue. And I feel like that's what you get with a narrow board. You can somewhat counter that with the length, because if you go super long, you've kind of only got the roll instability to deal with versus 3D instability. So anyway, yeah, I just promote big boards for beginners now. I'm like, go wide, go 21 wide, go as long as you can.
Yeah.
Downsize after. Don't buy a smaller board going up to the next board, because that's happened recently. Somebody messaged me, I've got this 7.2, I love it, but I want another board now because I can't use it. But they're like, I'm not going to sell it because I want to move into that board.
Yeah.
And they're like,
yeah.
And I'm like, well,
That's something I would do.
So I said, well, maybe just sell it now while it's still relevant, because you'll get more money for it.
Yeah.
Because when you get a bigger board that you're going to learn on now, because that you have to anyway, when you feel like you're finished with that board and you want to go down to that board that you're holding on to, you're going to be downsizing your foil as well. And I think when you start downsizing your foils, you also want the bigger board, because I lose so much stability going to the smaller foil.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway,
I mean, the foil is a huge amount of stability.
Yeah.
I mean, my 7.6 was about 21 wide, and that worked really well for getting up. And I would say kind of those narrow boards, like particularly around that 16, 17, which I haven't tried on a longer board, but I think it's purely really for trying to foil much smaller foils that for people that have kind of already gone through the hard yards on the bigger foils and are looking for something really quick for bigger conditions.
Yeah, I feel like we're going through that surfboard era where everybody wants the sexy piece of equipment. They want to buy the board that they think is cool, rather than the board that they should be on, which is the 8 foot, 9 foot foamy, basically.
Yeah.
Where you would catch every wave and have the time of your life versus bobbing around trying to look like Kelly Slater and never actually getting a wave.
And that's what the downwind foiling boards are really for, in my opinion, to be able to make it easy and catch as many waves as possible for as long as possible. And
Okay, any final thoughts? We've got visitors arrived, so
I think I covered it on my
so you're on
learning to
Instagram.
downwind.
Go check out Sam Kynman Cole's Instagram. He's got heaps of videos, some of me as well. He's a great drone pilot, so if you want any droning done, give him a call. He does it as a part job, so it's also something. Thanks for taking the time out to chat.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, we'll write out a script or something.
We'll have to figure something out.
But go home and think of some thoughts. And I've got some boards there you can go try as well if you do want to try a long narrow board. I'm sitting in the shed in New Zealand.
That might be good actually, because I've got some smaller foils to try.
But if you break it, you buy it.
Of course.
Alright, thanks,
Thank
man.
you.